back to Letter with ABC, a series on hand lettering. Today we're going to be talking about layouts, and I know this is kind of overwhelming because it involves a lot of combining and forming different words together, so we're going to be breaking it down to 2 episodes. Today we're going to be focusing on simple layouts you can start with by combining different font styles and words, so keep watching to know more about it.
So today we're going to be talking about layouts. So basically layouts involve the combination of words, not just one word, but mostly 2 or more words in order to form a cohesive art form. And this is usually used for hand lettering when it comes to creating and combining different fonts and different words to form a phrase or a sentence depending on your goal. So one of the basic things that I want to let you know from the beginning is to make sure that you have proper margin. My basic margin philosophy is basically just putting everything in the middle. I'm not using a ruler here, but just to give you a concise idea, everything is in the center. As you can see here, the subject is always at the center, and I usually just measure it out evenly. For example, for like an A5 sheet, like 1 inch on all sides, and then I just create a square in the middle of it. And in the middle of the square, you don't really have to fill up the whole area, but just to give an idea, this is where most of the space you'll be taking up for a specific sheet of paper will be. So for example, if you're using a rectangular sheet of paper or a circular sheet, this will help you also determine the spacing as to where you're going to be able to fill up all the areas with art and leave some white space. You don't want to overcrowd your paper, and I think this is a great way to do that. So to start, I'm just doing like a random quote which says hello there. So you will see that I counted out the number of letters per word. So they're both 5 letters. So one thing to note if you want to start practicing for simpler layouts is to make sure that the spelling is, the word count and the letter count per word is easy, it's the same, and that way you'll be able to create a symmetrical layout like this one. But of course, this can vary as you pick out different words and different quotes, but just to give an idea, this is how I divide it. Now let's move on to the next page, and this is where I'm going to show you how I'm going to hand letter this quote, hello there, in different styles and combinations. I'm just doing it freehand. I think this is the easiest way that you can start with it. You don't have to be super technical with measurements, because when you're doing these different combinations, I actually call them thumbnails, which means that you're creating different types of elements and combining them together and creating different combinations. So from these combinations, you will be able to pick out different themes and ideas before you proceed to the actual final artwork. I'll work on a video about this soon, but for the meantime, this is how I do most of my thumbnails. So for example, this first combination is just a series of serif and sans serif fonts, and as you can see, what I like to do on most of my layouts is I work alongside the shape of whatever the first word has come out with. I think it makes it look more like they're friends. Does that make sense? But that's also how I treat most of my letter forms. I don't keep them far apart, but also you don't want to stick them together. You want to make sure at the end of the day that when you create these layouts, the primary reason you want to create them in a proper way is for people to be able to read your quote and read the whole artwork just as you're going to view it. I mean, it's one thing to just look at it and say, oh, it looks nice, but it's another thing to read it, because at the end of the day, the goal of hand lettering, as I always mention, is to turn letters into visual art. So that is really something that you have to take heart in. So for this next combination, I am doing a series of serif and script. I personally am a huge fan of serif and script combined together. If you want to know more about the different font styles, I will link it down below. It was featured in the previous Letter with ABC episodes. And yeah, I also like to connect usually the top and bottom parts of the layout. So the first word and second word is always something that you can always connect with. If you're doing more layouts, which we will tackle in the future videos, and more words, this is going to be much more complex, but I will show you quick techniques on how to master those simple layout tips that you will take heart in. So one of my all-time favorites is also Allscript. Allscript is just, I find it the easiest because you can just move around and, incorporate bounce lettering techniques and really create a lot of dimension and flow and movement. It's not as static or stiff. I guess stiff is a better word. It's not as stiff as serif or sans serif because serif and sans serifs are usually, we're used to writing them and drawing them within lines, so it's a bit of a stretch to, move them around, but we can always do this, and I will also show you more about that. Lastly, I am showing you a very quick technique you can do when you're writing with banners. So banners, embellishments, different ways that you can like box together letters help create boundaries, and in this case, boundaries work because they help you establish proper shaping for your words. And again, when we're making layouts, it's really important to have a lot of cohesive aspects and also keeping the flow intact. It's not super like all over the place. That's why we also created the square bounding boxes per se, because I find it easier to work my way around that area and not having to, deviate out of it and just, explore and make a mess. I mean, it's fine to make a mess, but at the end of the day, you really want to figure out what your purpose is for hand lettering, and if you're not into, making it readable, then that's your call. And for me, I really do keep myself like in a proper philosophy of just keeping everything, all in place. So here I am using a lighter shade of brush pen. You will see I am actually showing you the divisions. This way you will be noticing that some letters fall under the line, especially for odd numbered letters like this one. These are both five letters, so you will find them, equally distributed on both left and right. So just to give an idea, margin is really important and keeping the alignment, and it's really necessary in order for you to figure out how your layout is going to look like. Here I am writing some of the key areas that you have to focus on and note and remember when doing layouts. So first is spacing. Keep the space equal. I don't use a ruler for this, but you can see how I try to just manage by eyeball. Second is alignment. And third is proper letter distribution. This is actually called kerning, but you will notice that it is always important to, do also word count and figure out how they all work together. Now, let's move on to the part where we will take out our letter with ABC workbooks, and here I am just gently tracing over two simple layouts that I have created for you. If you haven't downloaded the workbook, make sure to do so. The link is in the description below. So I am using a Sailor Shikiori pen. It's actually quite frayed as of this filming, but yeah, I just wanted to share some of the techniques. One way that you can create a simple layout is actually not doing a lot of changes with the square and rectangular shape like this one. This quote is simply just laid out on a grid sheet of paper, and for me this is the easiest way you can see the proper spacing. So on the top row, there is the word get and then it, and I centered it in the middle so that the word done would be, put at the second row in a very proper way. It's not like too much to the left and too much to the right. And also, one thing to note, if you're doing letters with shadows like the word done, I keep the spacing a bit loose just so it's easier for the letters to have some breathing space. And this is something that you can really do with grid paper because you will be able to measure it accordingly. The second one I'm doing is a bounce lettering technique. If you're curious about bounce lettering, make sure to watch the previous episode. So what I like about bounce lettering is just, I keep it simple, keep the shapes intact. And from the word make, I am continuing down with the word things. And as you can see, I am leveraging on the extra space above in order to create this sort of like wavy, sans serif scriptish combination. So yeah, this is a very quick tutorial on simple layouts. If you have more questions, feel free to add down below.
Thanks for watching this video, and make sure to download the Letter with ABC workbook to guide you on your hand lettering journey throughout the episodes. If you want to learn more about lettering, I actually wrote and illustrate a lot of books about it, so I will share it here. So first off, you have the ABCs of hand lettering. This is the basic guide you need to get started into hand lettering. You also have the lettering workbook, which is available in the Philippines, and I also have some available in the US. I will link it down below also for your reference. This is a self-published workbook. Apart from this, I also have this book called Hand Lettering A to Z, which is how you can create different font styles and different techniques with your hand lettering. This has been translated into 9 languages and is available worldwide, as well as the Hand Lettering A to Z workbook, which is an accompaniment to this book, and it's great to work with together. Lastly, if you'd like to get into more of hand lettering and calligraphy, I suggest picking up a copy of the Complete Photo Guide to Hand Lettering Calligraphy, also available worldwide, mostly in Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Book Depository, and all the respective links. I will make sure to put them down below for your reference. See you guys on the next video. Bye!